to next week as well. So let's talk about what we know here is all hands are on deck. Crews are still making efforts to contain these fires, the two big ones here, Palisades and Eaton, and they're looking ahead again to this windstorm that is expected next week, another Santa Ana wind event. So right now there's more than 37,000 total acres that have burned, at least 27 people confirmed dead in these fires, but again, authorities warning us that number is likely to rise. As tragedy strikes here in these neighborhoods, we're also seeing the community really come together like never before. And ABC's Melissa Eaton has also been on the ground here in Altadena and has more on those stories.
10 days since the deadly wildfires ripped through communities in Los Angeles County, the road to recovery is underway.
I can tell you the entire city family is working collaboratively to get you back into your homes and communities as soon and as safely as possible.
The fires damaging or destroying at least 12,000 homes and businesses, including schools and churches. Los Angeles County officials warning residents to be prepared ahead of another round of Santa Ana winds next week.
It is important that you protect yourselves and your family by planning, preparing, and staying aware.
In Altadena, the hardest hit community, this mural and these crosses have been put up to honor the victims.
We don't want the memories to disappear just overnight.
More than 53,000 people applying for federal aid. FEMA approving nearly $16 million in aid, showing how dire the need is.
I don't know how we're going to come back from this. I don't even know where to start.
Some evacuation zones have been lifted, allowing thousands of families to return to their homes.
To be back, I think knowing that, the police officers protected our neighborhood, I was so grateful. Really happy to be back home.
But officials say for those neighborhoods directly impacted by the fire, these communities may be restricted for at least another week. LA officials announcing phase 1 of the rebuilding process, and that involves the EPA coming in to remove hazardous and chemical materials and waste that's found all across these damaged homes and businesses. Kana.
All right, just the start of those efforts there, Melissa Eaton, our thanks to you. I also now want to check in with Jacqueline Lee. She's also on the ground out here in Altadena. And Jacqueline, the scenery is really changing around here. We're starting to see a lot of work being done. What are you seeing where you're at?
Okay, now, we haven't even been able to report this yet because we just learned about it. So there's members of California Highway Patrol that are inspecting each car left abandoned as a result of these fires. As you can see, though, there are many cars that are burnt out, but there are still some that are still intact. They are searching for the VIN numbers. If the VIN numbers are not intact, then they're writing down the make and the model. This gets sent to the DOJ. The DOJ is compiling a list, and we were told that 95% of car owners have made claims already. So they're able to then reach out to authorities and try to get in touch. These cars are going to be towed away. So then that's when owners can be reunited with their cars. But it's so interesting because we've been seeing these grid searches. We've been seeing firefighters going door to door to check out any spot fires. But now we're seeing officials address the car situation. So again, they are trying to find out the VIN numbers, make and model, reporting it to a list that goes to the DOJ. These cars will get towed and then hopefully get reunited with their owners, Kana.
All right, Jacqueline Lee, our thanks to you. And, we actually have seen both throughout these disaster zones, right? We've seen cars like this one here behind me completely destroyed, a total loss. And every now and then you see a car that was left behind that appears to be whole in this time. And I've also heard from people that it does seem like the insurance claims with vehicles is a little bit more straightforward than what they've experienced with their homes. So certainly another thing that people have to navigate, unfortunately. I want to introduce everybody now to another Altadena native, a resident here, Sylvie Andrews. She, along with her husband, are evacuated. They lost their dream home. And it's my understanding that, Sylvie, that you built this home with your own hands. So I'm curious because it sounds like initially you thought your home was still standing, right? And then how did the information flow to you?
Yes, so my partner and I are native Altadenans. We were both raised there, and we had bought our home in 2008 after not even being sure we would be able to buy in Altadena. But we were, and we rebuilt in 2018, brand new construction. The night of the fires, we evacuated with some elder neighbors, just thinking this was going to be like any other fire that had come through that we'd seen over the years. And we left that night thinking our home was a total loss. There were no flames in our neighborhood yet, but overnight and in the morning, we started hearing from neighbors that everything was gone on our block. So we had the time to think about that and think about what we wished we had grabbed. And then at about noon the day after, we suddenly get this text from a neighbor because we're close with our neighbors. We have a thread going. And my neighbor says there's one house left on the block, and it's the house with the pizza oven out front. And that was ours. And we raced back up the hill in our truck through the evacuation zone. It took about 15 minutes to get up the hill. We turn down the street, and just as we get there, we see it. It's still standing. But as you see in these images, which I took myself, it had just caught fire as we arrived. And we rushed in. This is probably stupid, but we rushed in. We had PPE on, goggles, masks. We touched the front door. It was still cool to the touch. So in that state, we thought it would be safe to go in, and we actually grabbed a last couple items out of our home and then ran for it, drove away. You're seeing that footage now. And got some photos of our neighbors' homes because we knew they were in the same state we had been in, where they just didn't know. We didn't want anyone else to stay in that state that we'd been in, where they didn't know. So we took pictures of each house and drove out of there. And we've been dealing with the aftermath ever since. We are traumatized, and I know so many of our neighbors are. And the first thing I want to say to anyone who's been through this is the most important thing is to get mental health help. Counseling, breathing, Tai Chi, yoga, anything you can do. If you've been through something like this, you need to take care of yourself.
I think that's a really important message, and I'm not sure that everyone is hearing that message right now because there's been so much focus on the logistical things and the immediate need that so many people have right now of places to stay. What do they do with their kids? And I think that's a really good note. It also struck me when you talked about the evacuation that so many people in California have done, where you kind of evacuate with confidence, thinking I will be able to come home. And that's just it's tragic. I can't imagine what turning that corner was like for you. And I know that you're talking a lot about how this has impacted your entire community. It sounds like some of your neighbors are from different countries around the world. Tell us a little bit about your general community and how people are coming together.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the reason we wanted to return to Altadena is because Altadena is America. It's the place where that American dream that people from all over the world would actually live next door to each other, know each other's names and children and pets, and talk to each other over the back fence. That is poppy fields. That is Altadena. That is where we were. And there were, on my block alone, there's probably 7 different countries and 10 different languages represented. And I just wanted to say that one of the most heartbreaking parts of this for me is that watching, everyone's got a GoFundMe up, everyone's got resources coming in, but I can see, my family, by the way, is white and black and brown and Asian. In Altadena, there's so many families like ours, and to watch the disparity between the funds that are coming in for people with privilege versus those who maybe were more disadvantaged has been really disheartening, and I hope we can do better. I've been trying to do everything I can do to share not just resources, not just clothes and blankets, but also connection. If you have access to resources, direct them towards the black and brown, Asian people in your neighborhood. Altadena will not be Altadena if we can't all come back. And that's just what I wanted to say.
I think that is a really strong message. I think it's one that is resonating because some people do have the luxury of wealth and privilege and other family members to lean on, but so many people in Altadena lost everything, and everyone that they know also sadly lost everything in this moment, and people are really destitute and they need help for the long term. So I think you're so right to bring that up. I'm terribly sorry for your loss, and we'll be thinking about you in the recovery efforts. Thank you for spending time with us today, Sylvie.
Thank you so much.
Of course. And coming up next here on ABC News Live, we do want to check